It is, first off, it is January 13th, 2018, and that is a Saturday. I work Monday through Friday, so on a Saturday I try to start all my plants. So now how do I come up with when to start my pepper plants? Well, what I do is I go to, I am in South Carolina, which is zone 8, and I believe that I, on the coast, am in zone 8B, but I know I'm in zone 8, and South Carolina is broken down into the different zones. And in my part, according to the Clemson Exchange, the plant date for spring pepper plants, and that date is for transplants. So you put your transplants in the ground on that date, and so I count back 10 weeks from that date, and it's somewhere around March 25th. I can't remember the exact date. But what I did is I got my Oliver Garden book, and this is a book I'm using every year, and I made it this year. And I'm going to share with you my dates and how I'm going about planting everything out in the garden. Had the best tomato season I've ever had in my life last year, 2017. Put up 55 quarts of tomatoes. This left page is the date I start my seeds in this propagation bed. Okay, and if you want to learn more about a propagation bed, just look at my other video on how I made this one. It's about 4 foot by 8 foot. It holds about 12 flats. That's more than enough because you start all your seeds at different times. So unless you're commercial, there's no reason why, residential farmer, at your house needs anything larger than this. So the seed starting dates, so I'm going to share with you my dates, and all I did was I back counted for the transplant dates. Okay, and some of these, okay, so if we look, I started my onions and peas on December 21st so that my onions and peas would be ready to go in on time. January 1st is spinach and so forth. So you can see January 4th, it's a little hard to read. That's thyme, oregano, dill, rosemary, cilantro, parsley. I use the overseeding method on those, which I'll show you in another video. So you can see January 14th is peppers. Well, that's tomorrow, which is Sunday. But I like doing everything on a Saturday and, resting on the Sabbath, that sort of thing. So I'm doing it today on the 13th. Close enough, right? One day. And then in 2 weeks, I'll do my tomato plants. Okay, cucumbers and squash, you do 4 weeks before planting time. And the same thing with okra. Okra loves the hot weather, so that's why it's so much later. Okay, so then those seed planting dates correspond to the transplanting dates. Now these are actually the dates that I plant stuff in the garden, and everything doesn't go in the garden in seeds. In fact, a lot of stuff I do, like tomatoes and peppers and squash and zucchini and cucumbers, are transplants. Okay, so you can see I have a P for plants and an S for seeds. So my peas are the first thing that go in the ground because they don't mind the cold weather. Potatoes and onions, lettuce and spinach and carrots, broccoli, collards, all those are cold weather plants. So they go in, early, February time frame. And then March is starting to warm up in my area in South Carolina. So I'll plant my herbs out, which I've grown for quite a long time. It takes a long time for herbs to grow. Corn, my cucumbers and squash. And then you'll see that actually my tomatoes aren't going in until March 25th, which is 10 weeks from today. So 10 weeks from today for the pepper plants. But then in 2 weeks, I start my tomato seeds, and it'll be 8 weeks for them. So, so that's all my dates of when I start. Now, I wanted to really think about how many I wanted. So what I did was I just here's all the different types of plants, and then I calculated my totals of how many plants I wanted to plant, or pepper plants. I did the same thing for the tomato plants, and I'm gonna do that same thing. I'm gonna be trying to sell some tomato plants this year, so I was trying to do some figures and calculations. Not really trying to make a lot of money off of it. I just love doing it. Why wouldn't someone love to have my pepper and tomato plants? Because I put so much care into them. All right, so here's what I'm growing this year, my pepper plants. These are like a bell pepper plant, big red sweet pepper, and you can see what it looks like. It looks like a beautiful pepper. We're gonna see in later videos what it actually looks like, because I've never grown this before. This is the banana peppers. I love banana peppers. We all know what they look like. Jalapenos, and these say hot. I like a little hotter pepper than the tame jalapenos. You can also get those too, so I like those better. These are ghost pepper plants. I grew these last year. Oh my God, these bushes got so big last year. So I'm gonna grow some of those, but not much. Habaneros, I can make salsas and stuff, and off of those. And this is my by far favorite pepper plant in the whole world. It is a cayenne pepper plant. I love the heat value. I love the flavor. I make all kind of stuff with it. I'll be growing a lot of those. And then I got some bell pepper seeds for my bell pepper plants from last year. I saved seeds. Later on, you know, some of my videos, when it's time this year, when I save seeds, I'll show you videos on how to do that. So today, January 13th, we are going to start planting pepper plants. So the first thing I did is I made my seed starting mix, and if you want to know how to do that, there's a video on seed starting mix and how to make this and how to sterilize it and how to make sure that it is good. Okay, and then I've got everything set up. Here's my trays. Okay, and then all this can go in my propagation bed. Alright, so the next step is we need to pack our trays. These are 72 cell trays, okay, for our peppers. And what we're going to do is we're just going to, I got everything set up so I don't have to get up, so I can do it sitting down. Just makes it easier to use my wheelbarrow, okay? So, just big handfuls. This stuff's still hot. I'm going to have to let it cool before I actually plant the pepper plants. But it will cool faster in these trays because it doesn't hold as much as the wheelbarrow does. The mass of the wheelbarrow and the amount of volume of soil will cause it to be hot longer. So, you know, stuff's still pretty warm actually. It's really hot. It's not so hot I can't work with it, but it's close. Okay, so just smooth it out, and there's a lot of air pockets that way. The easiest way to pack these down, because your roots want a good solid base. You don't want your seeds falling down through the settling process and then getting too deep either. So I've actually packed this one to use to push down all my cells. So this is the easiest way I found to do it. I just go through and, you know, this packs my cells really good. And what this also does is it actually makes pushes it down so that I can plant my seeds. Okay, so just like that, it's packed down, and I've already got like a ½ inch deep to plant my pepper seeds. Okay, so I'm gonna do all of them, and then I'll show you what it looks like when I've done all my trays. All right, it's really important to be organized. So what I did was I'm gonna have one label where the pepper seeds start and one where it ends. Some of these are gonna be full flats, so on a full flat I'll just have one tag. So I went through and put the date. Today is 1/13, and I put pepper type: habanero, banana, jalapeno, cayenne, ghost, big red, and then I got my 2 bells. Okay, and I've got all of my trays out. I don't have them pushed all the way back yet because it's easier to put the seeds in them. And then I'm gonna show you me putting the seeds in and then me filling them back up. All right, so I'm gonna start off by doing a whole flat of the habaneros, and these are from Johnny's Seeds. They're a little expensive, but they've got some varieties that are hard to find sometimes. So I always make sure that I pour them out the pack, that I don't pour it on the part that's sticky, because the seeds will stick there and you gotta knock them off. So I make sure I turn it so that the non-sticky side comes out. And I just fill my hand up, okay, with the seeds really simply. Okay, and I'm just gonna go through, and I'm just dropping 1 seed in each. You can drop 2 if you want to thin them out. If they don't all come out, they don't all come up. I'm planting plenty. It's not that big of a deal. If 2 fall in, that's not that big of a deal either. So, but my goal is to drop 1 seed per, and like 2 fell in that one, 2 fell in that one. That's okay. Wherever I have an extra one, I may wind up splitting. I probably will not. Okay, now if I see a pepper seed that looks deformed, dried up, or you know, or if one falls real close to the edge, I might go ahead and drop an extra one. But my goal is to try to get 1 good looking seed in each hole, and that really doesn't happen. I'm dropping a lot of 2s, but that's okay. So 72 cells is what I'm filling up. Three fell in that one. Whoops. It'll be all right. And I've tried different ways, and the best way I've found is just to put them in my hand. Make sure your hands are dry. The seeds will stick to anything that's wet. So I had to dry my hands off really well. Had a little clump there, so push that down to make sure it's the right depth. All right, so that's some good looking seeds in this tray. So now we're gonna backfill with soil. All right, so now I'm just gonna grab some handfuls of soil and just throw it over top, just trying to cover all the seeds. Okay, and then after do that, you just lightly rake it over the top. You don't want to pack it at this point because you want your seeds to be able to pop up through the soil really well. You pack underneath the seeds so the seeds stay where they're at, and so the roots have something solid to grow in. Always try to, for watering purposes, and so you don't have soil build up everywhere, I try to get them really flat. So not that big of a deal. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just give them a little quick pat. And that's it. That's all there is to it. That's planting the seeds. And then I will do that, put all my labels in, and then I'll show you what it looks like when I've got them all planted. Alright, so I got all of them planted. And you can see I try to keep them real flat so there's no build up. So I got everything labeled in the top right corner. That just, I know that whole flat is one thing because it's in the top right corner. Then when I get to a flat that has more than one thing, like this one has 18 ghost peppers. Now how do I know that? It starts there, it ends there. Then big red bell peppers start, and that continues to the end of the flat. This whole flat is bell. And then here's all my extras between the whole flats that I'm growing. And then in 2 weeks, I'll plant my tomato plants. So it's a little over half full of pepper plants. I love pepper plants. And it takes a lot more pepper plants to make peppers than it does tomato plants to make tomatoes. That's just the way it is. So thanks for watching. Oh, one last thing. I am going to give these a little spritz with a spray bottle. And then when I water them, I will pull up and I will water inside the tray, only about 1/4 inch of water. And I'll water them each time that it dries out and looks like dry peat moss. So the way the peat moss looks when it comes, really dry looking. When it starts looking like that on top, that's when it's time to water again. And then I'll water it. Besides that, during the day, it gets really hot in the it gets pretty hot in the greenhouse, so I take the domes off at least during the middle of the day. At night, I keep the domes on to try to hold the heat. And here's my domes. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go through and I'm gonna spray the inside of the dome to get extra moisture in there, and then I'm gonna cover up all these with the domes. And finally, now you can see I've got all the domes on the pepper plants, and all I did was took my spray bottle, okay, and then I just sprayed the inside of all the domes just to create an extra moisture level, to create an environment that will help with the propagation. And you can see that I actually have the temperature right here. The way it flashes is because of how fast the camera's taking pictures and how fast it's pulsing. Okay, with my human eye, it's a solid 77.7. But looking on the screen, you see the 7, the 7, and the 0.7. They're all flashing at a high rate, and the camera's just catching it at a slower rate than the human eye. So that's why it looks like that. So 77.7 is the temperature for my sand. So, you know, maybe I lose a degree or something through the plastic. I don't know. I can check that. It's probably about 75. So that is the pepper plants planted on January 13th, 2018, 10 weeks before planting season. And I will update you. This is part 1 of a series on these pepper plants. So stay tuned. In about 4 weeks, I will be transplanting them into cups. Thanks for watching Oliver Garden, and you have a great day. And if you haven't, subscribe and like. Thank you.